right, guys, welcome back to Of Stone and Clay. This is episode 94. We are here with the lovely, lovely Sarah Jane.
Hi.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me
Yeah,
on.
yeah. I'm excited to have you. Sarah Jane, which we love a double name. It's really nice. It's kind of, I was telling her, it's kind of old school. It's kind of Southern.
Yeah, Southern.
Yeah. And she has a last name, but it's not really important today. Sarah Jane, I met a few months ago, just briefly in a kitchen.
In the kitchen.
Yeah. You remember?
Yeah, making pasta with some friends.
Yeah.
Exciting.
I for sure wasn't involved in the pasta making, but maybe the pasta consuming. But Sarah Jane is an artist, a songwriter, and a camp counselor, yeah?
Yes,
yeah.
For the time being.
Okay,
I am a camp counselor.
Not,
Hoping not to stay there for long, but yes.
Okay, so that's not, music is more of your dream than a camp counselor.
I'd say, yeah.
Okay.
Music over camp counseling.
Okay. So I notice you have such a beautiful voice and you're such an amazing songwriter, but it looks like you're pretty recent into putting music out, right? Just for the last few years.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, just within the last 5 years, I've started putting out my own music. So, yeah, it has been a recent thing.
Cool. So walk me through the beginning of your musical journey. What kind of made you decide to go from this is a hobby, or I'm good at singing, or I like singing, I'm singing in church, whatever, to like, I really want to write songs and put them out there and have them affect people? When did that kind of change for you?
Yeah, I think the last 5 years I really started doing things on my own, but music has always been such a huge part of my life. Growing up, I would go to musicals a lot.
Really?
I loved musicals.
By yourself?
No, when I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
No, my mom, she loves music, so we would go and see certain musicals, and I loved them.
Yeah.
My first play was Les Miserables, and I just love the storytelling, and there's just something so special about live music in that way, so love that. And then I loved like just music in general. I loved Sarah Bareilles and Adele. I would always listen to them and play them when I was home. It's just in the corners of my house when I was like in middle school.
Did you learn instruments early?
Yes, I learned violin and classical piano when I was really young.
Okay.
And piano was my primary instrument all growing up. And I ended up studying for a year at the University of Utah, which was a really great experience. But yeah, so it's kind of...
So you're a bit of a maestro.
Yes, you could say no.
Okay. We'll title this episode with Maestro Sarah Jane.
Yes, that would that would make
Or is
sense.
maestro just a masculine? Is there a maestra?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay. We'll figure it out. So when did you first start like writing songs?
So I started writing songs just about like 6 years ago. And yeah, I've loved doing cover songs. I think the common thread throughout like my music influences was just like really emotional things. And I feel like I didn't really have anything to say until I was kind of a young adult, I'd say. So yeah, I love doing cover songs, and I felt like a lot of expression in that way, but it wasn't until I was an adult where I started writing my own things and wanted to share with people.
Now, when you were younger, were you into journaling at all?
I had a diary.
Yeah.
I was so dramatic. I had a diary. I would write in that thing a lot.
Yeah.
And it would...
Was it mostly just boys that you loved so much?
It was mostly about girls, actually.
Really?
Just a lot of drama with friends. Oh,
okay.
They left me out at the lunch table.
Oh, no.
Things like that. Yeah. But yeah, I think boys probably too.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you describe your musical genre? Is it kind of folksy, or is it just kind of, I don't know, there's so many subgenres, I don't know what to call anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd probably put it as like indie folk, maybe indie pop.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of my influences, I do love like the folk, like Gregory Alan Isakov.
Yeah.
Paper Kites, Bon Iver.
Okay, yeah.
But then I also love Phoebe Bridgers, Lizzie McAlpine, those kind of like female pop artists. So I'd say it's probably a good mix of both. And I love musicals too. So I think maybe some of that storytelling kind of bleeds into my lyrics too.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Can I admit something to you? I have no stomach for musicals.
No
I
stomach.
don't, even though I love music,
Uh-huh.
I just, something about, I want them to be separated. I want you to
Mm.
act and I want you to sing, and I don't need them
Don't
together.
mix them
Yeah.
together.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I've always been weird about that. Like, I don't know. To me, you just lose me when you start bursting into song.
Yeah,
Like, I
that's
love a
fair.
song in the background. I
Hmm.
love a good score, a good soundtrack, but I don't know. I just can't handle it.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty picky with them.
Yeah. um, do you have like an artist that you love that people would be surprised to hear, like kind of like a secret playlist, like
Mm.
some musician that you're like maybe a little embarrassed that you love?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I think the musicals might surprise people.
Mhm.
And especially when I was like an older child, I would listen to like Camp Rock and High School Musical on repeat.
Okay.
And I would perform like little parts of those things
Okay.
like
Okay.
against my family as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, right now I don't know if there's anything. I'm pretty, yeah,
Okay. Pretty basic.
pretty basic.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And we're gonna probably dovetail into talking about some other things, but I wanted to talk about this lyric of yours, and I want you to tell me kind of what's going through your head when you wrote this, or what was the impetus for this. So you said, I forgot to write down which song, but you'll know the song, I'm sure. You said, I could barely eat, barely sleep, knowing I hurt you.
Mm.
And that lyric, it hit me like a bag of heavy things.
Mm.
Because it's very relatable on both sides of a relationship, whether you're ending a relationship or you're the one that is being broken up with. Like, they kind of hurt, sometimes equally bad, and sometimes, I don't know, sometimes the pain is maybe a little bit of a different experience. But yeah, tell me about that. The feeling of I can barely eat, I can barely sleep, knowing that I hurt you.
Mm. Yeah. So that song, it's called Canyon Song.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the first songs I'd written. So I wrote that probably, oh, I don't know, maybe like 5 years ago. And yeah, it was my first like real heartbreak that I had ever experienced. And there's nothing really like that first heartbreak.
Yeah. Have you had
And
some good ones since?
I've had some since.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. We'll talk about those too.
Some good ones since, but there's nothing like that first heartbreak. And I think at the time, especially, and I think when you're young and you do experience that first heartbreak,
Mhm.
I think the extremes of those emotions you feel after it ends are pretty. They're hard to handle.
Yeah.
And
You
I
don't
think
really have
you
a way to
feel,
prepare for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that too. Yeah. But yeah, I think that lyric kind of describes kind of what it feels like to have that first heartbreak where you feel like the world's ending in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it's hard to kind of do basic things sometimes.
Yeah.
Even.
I remember thinking, like, when I was younger, watching movies, everything's dramatized, obviously, but people are saying, like, I was so heartbroken I couldn't eat for days, or I couldn't sleep. And I remember thinking, come on, like, give me a break. Like, I get it, you're sad.
Mm-hmm.
But there is something about when you're heartbroken, just how, like, yeah, you don't want to do anything. You don't have the energy. And yeah, life has just kind of lost some color.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I mean, hopefully you find the strength to eat and to sleep and to not become a zombie.
Yeah.
but yeah, you don't have the desire to do normal things. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think? Because yeah, I do think your first heartbreak can be especially difficult. Mostly because yeah, you don't have the tools yet to deal with your emotions, and it's also new and like scary kind of. But also I think sometimes as you mature and age, those heartbreaks can be worse because I don't know, for me at least, I'd like to hear your opinion. For me at least, the pain can kind of compound over years. And so a breakup as you get older can feel worse than when you were younger because I don't know, the hope has been built up longer and the dream, the fantasy of love has been built up longer. And so, I don't know, to me, my more recent breakups have been much worse than my younger ones.
Mm.
Yeah. Do you feel that at all?
Mm. Yeah, maybe in some ways. Yeah, I think my ability to handle them has gotten better as I've gotten older, but I think the relationships that I've had over time, they mature. And so in some ways, you're grieving something that maybe it's a little bit more real and a little bit more closer to the thing that you're ultimately going to get.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just kind of a different sort of process
Yeah.
as you get older.
What are sort of the things that you're looking for in a man? Like, not necessarily, this isn't necessarily to get you dates, but you know, you never know, but just more on an emotional level, like not necessarily like, oh, the guy needs to look like this or do this, but what do you need to really emotionally connect with somebody?
I'd say first thing I think it's important for someone to have a lot of kindness and compassion first and foremost.
Yeah.
And I think someone that just kind of views me as an equal, and we're able to kind of share ideas and thoughts in a really healthy and kind of, it's just fun to kind of go to those deeper places with somebody. But I think it's also important to have that lightheartedness as well.
Yeah.
And to have someone that you can just be silly and goofy with too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you feel like, because I feel like you can tell if somebody's kind and compassionate like pretty quick, but I think sometimes the emotional connection takes a little bit longer just to see like the person might be great, like they're kind, they're caring, they're generous, whatever, but you don't connect emotionally for whatever reason. Like, what do you feel like for you sometimes the disconnect is? Like, do you feel like sometimes you go on dates and you're like, oh, this guy's great, there's nothing wrong with him, but I don't know, I'm not connecting emotionally. Does that happen to you?
Yeah, I think it's pretty difficult for me to connect with people on an emotional level.
Oh, now we're getting somewhere. Okay.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, but I think I can sense when someone's genuinely kind and compassionate. And when they have those things, I know that I can trust them with those more vulnerable parts of myself. And I can show up in ways that aren't just trying to, you know, kind of maybe please them or just kind of put on this facade, but I can actually show up as myself and it can be all sides of me. So yeah, that takes time to kind of unravel that and to truly see that genuine kindness and compassion. But once I sense that and I know that I can trust them, then
why do you think it's difficult for you to connect with people emotionally, or the opposite sex especially?
I think it's probably a general thing. It's pretty hard for me to get to that point with people, just because I think I'm just pretty selective with who I share those things with. Is there a little bit
of a wall that we need to climb?
Yeah, you could say there's a wall. I mean, but I think that's probably, a lot of people can relate to that. I mean, I think there are some people that just wear their hearts on their sleeves, and I'm just not that type of person. I'm just more selective.
Okay, your heart's not on your sleeve.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's anatomically, it's
it's inside your body. Okay.
Yeah.
Shoot, that makes it tricky. Okay. So a lot of your songs, as are the songs of like all the artists I like, you know, they're about heartbreak and they're about love and they're about moving on and they're about all these emotional things that, you know, it's kind of the next step after writing dramatic things in your diary, maybe. You know, as you mature, you're like, okay, these are my adult feelings that I want to work out and I want to express in song. What for you is like the hardest part about heartbreak or trying to move on, or like you said, you know, feeling like you can't eat or sleep because you hurt somebody, because you ended a relationship? Like, what's the hardest part about that when your heart's kind of broken, for you at least?
Ooh. I think looking back at that first heartbreak, the hardest thing was knowing that I had hurt them And yeah, I guess every relationship is different, but in some ways it's, I don't know.
No, you're onto something.
That's a hard question.
Okay, let me tell you what I think, and you think a little bit more on it.
Okay.
Because for me, I don't know. There's a few elements, right? Let's say somebody ended a relationship with me, because to me, like, yeah, ending it with somebody that hurts, but to me, it's just worse if you get broken up with. It just is. Like, it hurts to hurt somebody, but knowing that you're the one that, like, ultimately just isn't enough or isn't right for somebody, that really hurts for a lot of reasons. And so for me, I think the broken heart is so hard to deal with because you're like, so many of your thoughts and your focus and your energy for however long it's been, whether it's a month or 3 months or 3 years, has been consumed by this other person. And you've been focused on trying to love them and trying to infuse yourself into their life. And then usually quite suddenly it's cut off at the knees. And now you have to go about your life knowing that, okay, whatever you had, even if it was great, it's gone now. And it was never going to work. It didn't work, and it probably never was going to work. And so I just feel like you're heartbroken, but you're also left confused, and you're sad, and you're angry, and maybe resentful, and maybe bitter. And it's just this like cornucopia of emotions. And so I don't know, for me, maybe it is a really difficult question because it's like, what's the hardest part about heartache? I'm like, everything.
Everything about it.
But I mean, that's me. I'm like, my heart is maybe a little bit more on my sleeve. I like to keep it right about here.
Right there.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's hard because it feels like a failure too. It feels like the relationship failed, but it feels like I failed. Especially if I'm the one getting broken up with. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things to sift through. There's the hurting people. There's the emotions around, like, all the memories and the time that you spent together, like you were talking about. And yeah, there's just a lot of things to say, like what went wrong. And then there's a lot of internalizing too, like you were talking, like there's a lot of what could I have done better, blaming, and just feeling like you're not enough for that person. I think for me, the most difficult thing is feeling kind of a loss of a certain part of myself. I think looking back at the relationships that I've had, they brought out a certain part of who I am.
Yeah.
And when I don't have them in my life anymore, kind of that part of me isn't there.
Kind of
really
dies.
It's not really, it dies in some ways. And kind of evolving and changing into a different version of yourself because of the relationship. But it's also a beautiful thing when you think about it too, is like part of you, there's like, part of you that kind of like dies, like you were saying, but out of all of that, there emerges like this different version of yourself. But change is hard, and it's not fun to feel those things happening in your life. And it's not comfortable.
Yeah. It's like, it's kind of like your soul needs to die. However many times your heart gets broken, right? Your soul kind of dies, or parts of you die. But I think if you don't internalize it too much and don't go down a depressive rabbit hole for too long, like you're fine to go down there for a bit. That's normal. But if you can find a way to climb out of that hole, like, I do think you come out a better person, and you come out like all those quote unquote deaths make you a better version of yourself, I think.
Yeah.
But it's funny. So a couple weeks ago, I ran into one of my exes.
That's fun.
That this one was unique, where it was a very mutual breakup. And I mean, I think ultimately, like, I wanted to try it one more time, and she was like, no, we're done, we're good. But ultimately, like, we both knew we just weren't going to work, even though we cared about each other so much and we'd spent so much time together. But it was funny. I was driving somewhere and she's like, it's funny. Her house is in a place that I drive past all the time, like to places I need to go. And so, and I never see her. I see her car all the time, but I never see her. And then I'm like turning the corner and I see her out in the front yard, like gardening. And I was like, I'm gonna stop and say hello.
Oh, so you stopped?
Yeah. Because we ended on good terms.
Yeah.
And like, the only thing that's hard is like, we could even be friends. It'd be hard, you know, because we'd probably end up falling back into old habits, and then we'd be like, okay, what are we doing? You know what I mean? But there was never any bad feelings towards her, and I hadn't seen her in maybe a year or 13, 14 months. And so I get out and we just hugged and like caught up on the grass. And it was funny. I remember thinking like, dang it, dude, the way we talk, the rhythm we have, it died. Like, I don't have that with anyone else. And I have awesome, cool, maybe even better things with other people, but this specific way that we joke and the way that we, I don't know, just rhythmically communicate.
Yeah.
It's so specific to us that it's dead forever, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was cool and fun to kind of recapture it for a minute.
Yeah.
And luckily it's been long enough, and I've dated someone since her, like that like catching up and stuff didn't like put me in the grave.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, there's other people that I might run into and it might put me in the grave. But yeah, that was just all love. And but yeah, it's interesting how, and you even have that with friendships, right? You have very unique parts of you that people pull out of you.
Yes.
And it's really beautiful, but it, I think, adds to the pain too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
when you know you can't have it in your life anymore. Yeah. But how awesome that it happened, you know?
Yeah. 100%. I was listening to one of your songs. I think it's Slip Away. Is that what it's called? And I can't remember what it was connected to, but I was also thinking about like some show or movie that I'd recently seen, and it made me think like, how important is it as an adult to kind of remain childlike? Because that song's a little bit about that kind of feeling or childhood. Yeah, how important do you think it is to remain childlike as an adult?
Yeah, I think it's the key to happiness in a lot of ways. Yeah, that song, it's all the song's really about. It's about this time in my adult years where I was really reflective on my childhood and kind of felt disconnected from, you know, when you're a kid, you're just purely yourself.
Yeah.
You're unapologetically yourself. And I think everyone can relate to, you know, there are times when we lose that childlike self. And in adulthood, I think it's really just like such a joyful experience to find ways to reconnect with that younger self, to find ways to show up more authentically.
What's a good way to reconnect with your younger you think?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot. I think one of the ways is me releasing a lot of music. Music when I was young was like my whole world.
Yeah.
I would perform all the time, and I would sing in front of people, and I just loved listening to it, and that kind of expression was just brought me so much joy when I was a kid. So now doing it as an adult, I feel the same way when I was a kid, and it just makes me happy. It just adds to, it just gives a little sparkle to life. I think as a kid you can, like, you know, as an artist they talk about, you know, getting in a flow state. You know, I feel like kids they can get in a flow state for anything and do it for hours. You know, like they get in a flow state like playing some pretend game they made up, and that's their whole world, you know. And I think as an adult, I don't know, we care more about like
being entertained, and we care more about like just general stimulus, and we care more about what people think, and like the thought, like, am I being productive with my day and what I'm doing? Because as an adult, you're way more conscious of time. But as a kid, yeah, you're so free, and you're so present, I think is the main thing.
Yeah, definitely. And another kind of layer to that song is also, I think as an adult, we're often trying to change who we are in order to kind of fit in. And yeah, I think that was a big part of growing up, was learning how to truly be who I was.
Yeah.
And not trying to live, in ways to try to please the people around me, but to truly just show up as myself.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you a question as a woman, because I've never been a woman.
Okay.
I just haven't. And I have 2 sisters and a mother, and I've been surrounded by many wonderful women in my life. But I often wonder how affected you are as a woman by like body standards and seeing beautiful women everywhere on the internet. And it's just different than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago, where people talk about like impossible beauty standards or whatever, but I'm just curious for you, how affected are you by just kind of the way women are portrayed? Yeah. Is that something that you struggle with? Is it something that you're like, whatever, I'm confident in myself and what I've got? Or are beauty standards something that occupy your brain a lot, I guess?
Yeah. I think as an adult, they don't as much as they did when I was kind of in middle school and high school, kind of finding who I was. But it's a process and it's a journey, and I think all women can relate. It's something that you go through your whole life, because the standard of beauty is something that's just, like you said, it's always in our face, and it's also always changing, and it's something that's just so elusive and can't be attained. And it's difficult for sure. But that's something, there's a line in my song that talks about how, when you're a kid, those things aren't even a thought that comes into your mind. And there's a line that says, it talks about kind of my younger self and how I had pigtails as high as they could be, and sparkled shoes with a mud-stained jersey.
Yeah.
And then I say, who cares what I wear, because I am always pretty.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of mindset that you have as a child, is that I am always beautiful. I am always pretty. And as you grow up, that changes. That mindset changes because of those standards and those.
And as a kid, you don't think to compare yourself with others.
That too.
Because I don't think, like, I don't love just like blaming the evil society. Like, I think it's just human nature.
That
right?
too.
Like, you start to grow up and you see all your friends and you're like, well, their hair's longer than mine, or their hair's straighter than mine, or they have such a different body than me.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, you're like, let's play. That's all I care about. Who's going to play with me, and when can I get more candy?
Exactly.
And so
the important thing.
Right. And that's still kind of my way of approaching things now. But it's interesting, because I think men struggle with it too in different ways, but I feel like women struggle way more with sort of body dysmorphia, where, like, I don't know, like for me at least, like I feel like I know what I look like. I feel like, it's pretty good. It's not great. It's whatever. But I don't know. Like, I don't think about it as much as I think women do. Like, I'm pretty satisfied with what I got, and I go to the gym, try to make it a little better, but that's, I don't know, that's kind of it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's something that's universal in a lot of ways, but yeah.
What do you, kind of going back a little bit, and this is kind of connected to like trying to connect with your inner child and stuff, but I wonder how often you think about sort of the fragility of time, and like how precious time is. And I know it's something that's kind of consumed my thoughts as I've gotten older. Again, when I was younger, I thought I have all the time in the world to do anything and everything. And as you get older, you just kind of realize, like, you can look at the arithmetic, you just don't have the time to do everything, and as you get older, you know more people that pass away, and you realize certain friendships end and relationships end and jobs come and go, and you just realize that a lot of things you might be doing for the last time. Is that something you think about?
I don't know if I do think about that a lot.
Maybe this is a me problem.
No, that's not a problem. No, but I do think about it sometimes.
Yeah.
I think about, I can relate to when you're young, you feel like you have all the time in the world. And I think as I've gotten older, I've really tried to just be more present, knowing that time is this thing that is finite. And that's something that I have been thinking a lot about recently, is how every moment is just always passing you by, and really trying to savor every present moment you have. You see it like when you watch the sunset, how the colors are just changing faster than you can like watch it fall. And just trying to really savor those moments with people, with everything.
So let's say you're talking to somebody that's like really struggles to be present and savor those moments, because they're all over the place and they're thinking about the next thing. What's a good tip, you think, for savoring moments? Because it's hard.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I don't know if I could prescribe a tip. I think.
Oh, well, what do you do to savor? Yeah. Or are you bad at savoring?
I think it's like a skill that I've tried to develop. It's taken me like 2 years to just sit and be okay with silence.
Yeah.
But I meditate. I try to.
Yeah.
I mean, who isn't meditating now? But I think it's a skill that you kind of have to develop, and I'm still learning how to truly just be present.
Yeah. What are your favorite moments of, like, because you said you're a big outdoor person, like, do you have certain moments that you feel the most meditative or the most spiritual or the most connected with God or whatever?
Yeah, I think when I'm skiing, I feel the most present.
Oh, really?
I think it's kind of like that flow state. You get in that flow state where you're just thinking about the next turn, and your mind just clears.
Yeah.
And it's a similar thing like with trail running. But I think skiing is that's like the ultimate time where I get into that flow state where you're just thinking about one turn.
Yeah.
And it's really good to find whatever.
Yeah. Well, these aren't helpful for me. I'm not a skier, and I'm not going to trail run.
Never say never.
I could. No, I actually want to ski. I just was always a basketball player, and.
Well, yeah. With basketball, did you ever find that? Yeah,
for sure. I think in any athletic endeavor, like you start to get into a place where you're so locked in. You're thinking about the game. You're thinking about the next play. You're thinking about whatever maneuver you're doing. And it's interesting because I think in the moment, like, I don't think about it as like a spiritual act. It just feels like a highly focused moment.
Yeah.
But I think anytime you can kind of get into a flow state, it is kind of a spiritual thing, and it's like, you can kind of get these Zen moments really doing anything. I think if that's your aim and that's your focus, and I think when you get in those moments, that's when you're able to savor things, and you can, because it's almost like when you're in a flow state, it's almost like time slows down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're skiing, you probably can kind of notice the way the snow's falling a little bit differently, and you can notice this turn a little more easily because you're not thinking about anything else, and there's less stimulus. You're just focused on the snow and the way your feet are moving and your hips and everything. And I think you can do the same thing when you're like eating a bowl of cereal.
Yeah. Brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but it's hard when you're doing something so, menial as brushing your teeth. It's easy to just think about a million other things.
Yeah.
But I think
that's the ultimate test.
Right.
Is if you can brush your teeth
and just be
mindfully.
Just be in the moment. Yeah. Think about the bristles and the crest whitening agent.
Yeah. Is that Crest?
No,
guy?
I use one that I can't remember what it's called. Yeah. That's how much I love it.
Yeah. I'm a Colgate girl.
Oh, okay.
It's great.
Yeah. No, I think it's called Sensodyne because I have sensitive teeth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's like a special toothpaste.
Yeah. It's overly expensive. Where does in your meditations and your artistry, where does God kind of fit into the picture of everything?
That's the biggest question. Yeah. I think my relationship with a God or a higher power is always evolving and changing. And yeah, it's
any recent evolutions we should know about?
Recent evolutions. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a relationship that has its periods of it's had its periods where it's been complicated relationship, where it's hard to even believe in something that's intangible, but it's something that I'm always like reaching for and trying to kind of understand better.
Yeah. What's we're gonna rewind. What's kind of the hardest thing about dating for you, or maybe the most frustrating thing about dating?
The most frustrating thing about dating.
Yeah. Or do you just love it and it's smooth sailing?
I love it. Yeah, easy breezy. Recently, I think I'm just very picky, I guess you could say, and I have a very clear idea of what I want, and so it's just it's just a matter of trying to find it out there.
Guy comes along and you're like, nope.
It's just hard to find the fit. Especially as you get older, I really like my alone time.
Really?
I do. I love my alone time, and to have someone infiltrate that takes a special person.
Yeah. Okay. I'm starting to understand this wall that you've built up.
The wall. Yeah. I'm just pretty picky. So a lot of first dates.
Are you especially introverted, or where do you kind of fall on that spectrum?
Yeah, I'm more introverted than extroverted, I'd say.
Yeah. I feel like that makes it harder.
When you're introverted to date? Why do you think that?
Because you love your alone time.
Yeah.
And I think you're less likely to want people in your life. Especially new people.
Yeah.
Like you have your established friendships and relationships, and you're like, yeah, these are good. So like for you to enter my world and consume my time that's very precious to me, you better knock it out of the park, Yeah. Whereas I'm very extroverted, and so I'm like, I want to hang out with everyone all the time.
Yeah.
And that has its own problems, because there's lots of people I would love to spend time with, but I'm like, yeah, we wouldn't work out. Like, I like you, but I would never love you, or I even like you a lot and could maybe love you, but don't want to marry you, like every side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But I love having people around. I love spending time with people, and I don't really care about my alone time.
Yeah. We all kind of come with our own,
because
things that make dating hard.
Because to me, alone time, like, I'm going to get it regardless. Like, it's there. And it's not like I can be with somebody 24/7. So yeah, I don't value my alone time that much.
Yeah.
So I'm like, come join me.
Yeah. I love my alone time, but that's another thing about introverted people is they like, this is like our bread and butter.
Right,
we love
one-on-one.
Connecting one-on-one.
Yeah.
So I think my pickiness is like separate from my introvertedness.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I think that's definitely part of it, is I really value my alone time. So
what do you think you're especially picky on? And you can be brutal here.
I don't know. I can't name it, but it's just like, when you meet someone and there's that intangible, you just connect. Yeah. I'm just looking for that, I guess.
Do you feel like you can get that on a first date, or does it take a couple?
I try to give it enough time.
Yeah.
but I can tell pretty quickly, I think, at this point.
Okay, yeah.
What would you say?
This is hard because I think I usually can tell pretty darn quick, but if I like a lot of things about them, I like to give them the benefit of the doubt and give them a couple tries. But I'm usually not wrong, you know?
Yeah, those instincts.
Yeah,
They've never.
they're usually right. But here's where it gets tricky for me. Tell me if you agree. So I feel like let's say I go out with 7 girls next week.
Oh,
A great week, you know?
okay.
I have no more money left.
Busy.
This is very hypothetical. So let's say I go out with 7 girls. I'll probably really enjoy my time with 3 or 4 of them.
Okay.
Like
Carry the 2.
Yeah,
Got
yeah.
it.
Just we have a good time. I'd be down to do it again, you know. I probably only really connect with 1 or 2 of them emotionally and like us kind of viewing the world in a similar way. But I probably only like could see potential with 1 or 0 of them. Okay.
0 to 1.
Right. And so, and you know, if you elongate this equation and, you know, say I go out with 100 girls in a year or whatever, the number of girls that I'm going to connect with really deeply, enjoy my time with, and see potential with it's just a really low number, you know? And maybe it's because I'm picky, or maybe it's just because I know what I want, probably a combination. But the problem I run into is that's a lonely existence when only 1 out of 20 people you really, really connect with. And so I'm like, okay, but these others that I at least connect with a little bit, they're still enjoyable and fun, and I want to be around, and I want to get to know, and maybe they can change my mind, and maybe we can get somewhere, but we just usually don't, you know? So that's where I struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's valid.
But
I think,
sounds like you just cut them off at their knees and
yeah, and at the knees usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm just kind of tired at this point.
You're tired.
And I value my time with my friends a lot, with myself, and so yeah, I'd say dating it's something that I think about, but
Here's a question. Let's say you meet a guy at a party or at church, at camp.
at camp.
Right.
Yeah, set the scene.
Yeah. And he gets your number and you're like, okay, I don't know much about this guy, but he's cute, he's my type, whatever. Is it going to be easy for him to get you on a date, or is he going to have to jump through some hoops?
No, yeah, I don't play the games.
Okay.
I don't have any hoops.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm straightforward. Like if I have interest,
if you're remotely interested,
yeah, like I'll plan a date. I'll be straightforward with it. But if I just don't see anything, I don't want to waste our time.
You're not one of these perpetually busy people. Like, yeah, I could maybe do something in mid-September.
Yeah, mid-September, September 45th.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
No hoops.
Just curious. Those hoops can be dangerous. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about hope. How do you feel about hope?
Love hope.
You pro hope?
I'm pro hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to read this quote about hope that I read last night, actually, and I loved it so much, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. It's by Henry David Thoreau, and he said, "If rivers come out of their icy prison, thus bright and immortal, shall not I too resume my spring life with joy and hope? Have I no hopes to sparkle on the surface of life's current?"
Can you read that again?
Yeah. "If rivers come out of their icy prison, thus bright and immortal, shall not I too resume my spring life with joy and hope? Have I no hopes to sparkle on the surface of life's current?"
That is poetic.
Yeah. I mean, our guy Henry knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Henry Thoreau. Mm. I I think I can I think all of us could relate to finding hope through nature.
Yeah.
There's always lessons that we're learning through the seasons changing, through a river thawing. Yeah,
Yeah. I
beautiful.
just started reading. It's this little like 60-page book of poems or whatever, nature musings by him,
Mm-hmm.
and he says this other line that I won't quote directly, but he's saying like he's walking out and it starts snowing, and he said like each little snowflake, they're like these little miracles coming from the sky, and he said they were so beautiful that it wouldn't have been any better had the real stars fallen onto his sleeve.
Mm,
Like he was just so,
beautiful.
yeah, just so overtaken by the beauty of a simple snowflake.
Mm.
And I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about just being deeply, deeply present.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think when you're deeply, deeply present, you're also deeply appreciative and grateful because you're looking for good and beauty in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of just like whining because it's cold outside and snowing, which
Yeah.
is usually my MO.
Yeah. Who likes the cold?
Yeah.
Actually like the cold. But yeah, I kind of going back to the God thing, there have been times in my life where it's really difficult for me to find hope in things that are intangible.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you get to that place, I think all of us have been there to some degree. It's really hard to find hope. It's a really dark and discouraging place to be. But hope can be found in like moments like this. Like you can tangibly find hope anywhere if you look for it. And yeah, you can see it like I was talking about with the sunset, with the colors changing in the sky, or with the season changing. Like that gives you so much hope. Like nothing is permanent. Everything is going to change. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I saw this video the other day on TikTok. It was Bill Murray, who I love. He's a saint.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But I don't remember
Legend.
what thing he was at, but somebody asked him if there was like in an interview if there was like a piece of art that had really moved him or had meant a lot to him. And he's like, "Oh yeah, there's a period in my life where like I was in some play and I forgot my lines and it was a disaster and I like walked out of the play." And he's like, "And I just like roamed the city by myself at night." And he's like, "I don't want to be dark, but I didn't really want to be around anymore, you know?" And he said, "I just walked and I ended up like going into this museum in the city, and there was a painting of just this woman like in the 1800s in a field, you know, just like cutting wheat or something. And there's like a sun setting behind her." And he said, "I looked at this painting for a long time and I was like, this girl in this painting doesn't look like she's got much going on, honestly. Like, but the sun's going to set and she's going to have a new day tomorrow." And he got so much hope out of just this painting that most people would probably walk by and not even notice, you know. But I love that, the ability to kind of elicit hope out of anything, you know.
Yeah, I think you can find it wherever
I had a good friend of mine tell me that he had a moment like that, and his thing that gave him kind of some extra hope when he didn't have any was an extra hot dog.
Hey. Yes.
No, so
I feel that.
So he was like going through, he had like a broken engagement and he was like, had lost his job, didn't have money, and was trying to like sell the ring and no one was buying it, and was just like down on his luck. And he's like, so I go to Wiener Schnitzel. He's like,
because where else would he go?
Yeah. When a man's heartbroken, he goes to Wiener Schnitzel, I can attest. But he's like, I basically had enough money for like a hot dog and a drink. You know, I was just trying to get by. And he's like, so I pay or whatever, and they call my number, and there's 2 hot dogs. And he's like, oh, I just ordered the one. And he's like, the employee's like, oh, it's fine, dude. Don't worry about it. It's on us.
2 hot dogs?
And he's like, and bro, that second hot dog was the best thing I had going in my life at that time. You know?
That's a silver lining.
Yeah,
if I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
2 hot dogs.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, the world's a beautiful place.
That's true. If you can get a second hot dog, like, that says everything about. I wanted to ask you if you had any questions for me.
Ooh,
Yeah, kind of reverse roles here a little bit. Yeah.
That's cool. I like that you do that.
I mean, I know we don't know each other very well, but any curiosities?
Yeah. Okay. Here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
Your podcast.
Yeah.
You said you've been doing it for years.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is kind of the hope for the podcast? Like, what do you hope that listeners gain by listening?
I hope that people, I think it's maybe kind of similar to what a lot of musicians want, is I hope people feel less alone, you know? And the thing is, I want to just talk about life, right? I want to talk about the human experience. And so some of it is funny and trivial, and we're talking about an extra hot dog. But people can hopefully relate to that. You know, they've been in a spot where they're like, man, I got nothing, but like, man, somebody offered me like their last cookie, and that meant the world to me, you know? So I want people to listen and see themselves in other people's conversations and feel less alone, you know? And so obviously you hope the podcast grows and reaches more people, because it's your art, you know, just like as a musician, your song is what it is once it's done, once it's finished and mastered and it's out to the public, but you want as many people to hear it as possible, because that's more lives that can maybe feel less alone. And maybe they hear a song about connecting with their inner child and they're like, yes, that's what I need to do right now, you know? And so, yeah, that's the hope, is that people listen, and not that I don't want the podcast to be me like prescribing ways to live necessarily, and like trying to influence people through specific self-help. Like, I want people to listen and be like, oh, that's an interesting point maybe I haven't thought about, but that's an experience I've felt, and maybe I haven't articulated it that way or thought about it that way, but now I feel less alone. And so, yeah, ultimately just for people to feel less alone, I guess.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We need more people doing that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other questions?
Nothing comes to mind. But.
What is something that you wish like you could go tell a young Sarah Jane, now that you have some experience, you've been through some heartbreak, you've been through some adult matters, what would you tell a really young Sarah Jane that maybe didn't quite have a grasp on things yet?
Good question.
Yeah.
I'd sit her down for a couple hours, probably.
Yeah.
I'd have a lot
to
tell
tell
her.
Yeah, you have all day with sweet
all day.
with sweet young
We
Sarah
can go
Jane.
to the playground. We can hang out. I think I'd probably tell her to not take life so seriously. I think that when I was younger, I just took things so seriously. And there's something to really, having ambition and drive in life and taking time to think deeply about things. But I think there's something to just enjoying a day and for what it is, and just like we've been talking about, just being more present and savoring the little things without taking things too seriously.
Do you think serious Sarah Jane would listen?
No. Yeah. That's the question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, what would you say? But
Right.
would we even listen?
Yeah. I don't
Probably
know.
not.
I mean, it'd be pretty like mind blowing to have future self,
Yeah.
coming to you. So maybe you would listen. Right?
Yeah. Would we even recognize ourselves, or would we just
Well, I mean,
stranger danger?
this is quite the hypothetical, but okay, we've talked a little bit about, or maybe a lot of bit about, kind of romantic relationships and stuff. Why for you or how much do you value just normal friendship? Your girls, your guys, whatever.
Girls, my guys.
Do you have a lot of male friends?
I have a few.
A
Yeah.
few, yeah.
Yeah, I have a few male friends.
Yeah. But yeah, why is friendship important to you?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's just, how else do you want to get through life? Do you want to go alone, or do you want to have some
Hey, I'm
people?
with you.
But yeah,
I'm with
right?
you. Yeah.
It just makes life more fun, and it makes you feel like you're not alone. And
Mhm.
yeah, I love my friendships. I value them a lot.
Okay. Could you name, and you don't have to name names, but kind of a shout out of what a friend maybe has done for you that you're like, I don't know what I would do without this person. Yeah.
I think it's really just the small things.
Yeah.
Just like having someone to talk to, someone to laugh with,
Mm-hmm.
someone who's just there for you. And I think recently I've just been really valuing friends that just really prioritize the friendship, and yeah, just doing the small things to just make you feel like you've got someone who has your back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can think of one. I have this friend. Her name is Kenna.
Shout out Kenna.
Shout out to Kenna. She just barely picked up crochet.
Mm-hmm.
Who isn't?
Yeah.
But she's gotten really good at it. And for my birthday, she handmade this sweater for me. This
Wow.
full on, and crocheting. I don't know if you've ever crocheted
I
before.
have not dabbled.
She tried to teach me. I had zero patience for it.
Yeah.
But it takes like weeks at a time. So for her to carve out so much time to do something very personal it meant a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you a love language person?
I've heard of them.
You've heard of
That's
them.
the classic first date question.
Yeah. Do you? What ones do you care about the most?
I think they're all important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe what? Because I agree they're all important. But what are kind of vital for you specifically, like in a relationship? And it could be, it could be a friendship too. But like for me, gift giving is awesome and really appreciative. But if it's not there, I don't really notice. I don't really care.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for a healthy relationship, I think it's good to have kind of all of them.
Yeah.
But I don't expect someone to like hand make me sweaters all the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's more just like the intent behind it that meant a lot. I think the things that I've noticed, like, oh wow, that felt really good, are quality time and words of affirmation.
Yeah.
Those are probably the things that I value more than the others. But I mean, it feels great to have anybody just show you any love and affection.
Yeah, I'll take anything
in
at
any
this
form.
point. Yeah.
So
Beggars can't be choosers.
okay. Yeah. Beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah. Okay, my last question, kind of, this is kind of the opposite of giving your younger self advice. What do you think at this stage in your life and whatever you're going through, what do you think like Sarah Jane 10 years from now could come tell you now that would be helpful, that maybe you need to hear? Because maybe now you're a little bit older, maybe you could really absorb this information better.
Ooh. I don't know what I'd say.
Yeah.
I don't have that perspective yet. Maybe she'd tell me the same thing.
Yeah. Still.
Not to take life too seriously. Yeah. Aren't we all just kind of learning the same lessons all the time?
Yeah. I mean, I think, we all have kind of themes in our life, that we struggle with, I don't think, like for me, like, I think I'm probably on the opposite end where like, I should maybe take life more serious sometimes. Like, I just love goofing around and playing
That's
and
awesome.
enjoying my life.
It's a good way to live.
And yeah, it's great, but like sometimes I could be more disciplined, or I could be more more dialed in on certain things. But yeah, it's interesting how we all kind of have themes that kind of follow us most of our life, and we always kind of need to be working on and focusing on, and sometimes they're like, maybe you could say they're weaknesses, but they can also be our strengths too. You know, like I'm sure the fact that maybe you lean a little bit more serious, or like taking life too seriously, there's a ton of like benefits from that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, there's some things that maybe kind of weigh you down as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Double-edged sword.
yeah, totally. Well, Sarah Jane, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So yeah, we were going to, you know, at the end of these episodes, we often like to have musicians play their songs, and we were going to ask you to play one of your songs. But what I didn't realize is a few days ago, you and my producer Tommy recorded one of your songs with Ben Rainier, who also was on the show recently. So yeah, we'll just why don't you tell us a little bit about that song?
Yeah, so this song is called Summer, and it actually, in some ways, has a lot to do with that quote that you shared. And it's about a song. It's a heartbreak song, ultimately, at its core. But it's also about hope and finding hope in the aftermath after a relationship has ended. So
Great. Was it an emotional experience writing the song, or had you had some time removed from the experience?
Yeah, so this song is really unique because I wrote it the night after the breakup.
Wow.
Yeah, most songs I have a little bit more time, but this one was unique in that I wrote it the exact night after we broke up.
Can you tell us about the breakup?
Yeah, so so the relationship was really great, and then kind of out of nowhere, he decided that he didn't want to move the relationship forward. So that night I was dealing with a lot of shock, a lot of denial, and I just could not sleep. I could not sleep, and I was just tossing and turning all night, and there was a moment where I was lying in bed and I fell asleep for a little bit, and then I woke up, and in my exhausted state for a minute I thought, wait, this didn't happen. That was a crazy dream.
Gosh.
That was a crazy dream that just happened, but the reality hit me, and then
way to kick a girl when she's down. The subconscious.
Yeah, the subconscious mind. But yeah, so I sat down and I wrote this song, and it was kind of, I guess it felt like the universe was kind of writing the song with me, because I was drawing a lot of things that were actually happening in real time with just that night. So the relationship, the song is called Summer, and it's all about kind of likening that relationship to this summer that's just blissful and warm, and it gives you kind of everything that you need. And then that night there was this huge thunderstorm, the first summer rainstorm that had happened, and I just remember hearing the thunder and the lightning. And then as the sun was rising, I saw this flower, and it was just wilted, and it just looked sad.
This is heartbreaking.
And I just felt like the flower in a lot of ways. So I kind of wrote this song around the flower and about the storm and about the summer.
Yeah. Wow.
So
that's beautiful. All right. Well, Sarah Jane, you're the best.
Thank you. Yeah. It's great to be on here.
Awesome. Okay. That's a wrap.
1, 2, 3, 4. Such a bright and sunny summer. Learn to live by the warmth of your love. And I grew and bloomed unlike any other season I have touched. but I know you can't stay. I just hope I can grow and bloom, somehow get over you and grow and bloom a little taller than in that bright and sunny summer.